Okay, so I've finished the setup and in the process of doing all the adjustment to strings. Inevitably I always break a string, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to go ahead and restring it. So I'll have brand new, nice new strings when my nephew gets it. I thought I'd take a moment and just talk about how to actually use these locking tuners. There's a lot of people that I see they'll have locking tuners on their guitar. The tuners are designed both for convenience and also to improve tuning stability, but they use them wrong and they defeat the purpose of the locking tuner. So I'm going to take a second and give you an idea how to use these things. So I like to line up the hole so that it's pointed toward the nut. And what you'll notice on these other tuners, the other strings, there's no wrap around the peg. One of the places where you can get some tuning instability is when you wrap the string around the peg. Basically, it has room to move. Basically, what you want to do to make sure the guitar stays in tune is that the distance between the tuning peg and the saddle down here is always the same. It's constant. And places where you can have tuning problems are either down at the bridge, which if you set it up right, it shouldn't be that bad. You can have it where they stick in the nut slots. So this nut is actually a frictionless or low friction graphite, or I guess it's not graphite, it's tusk. I'm not really sure what the material is. It's probably some sort of form of graphite. But it's a low friction, self-lubricating nut. So that should help with tuning stability. But if they get stuck there, essentially what happens is that then the string, for example, if you're bending a note and it pulls the string this direction and then it gets hung up, well then it can't go back, and so the string is actually shorter than what it was originally. Let me think about that. Actually, it's longer. It would be longer, so it would make the note flat. Conversely, if you use the tremolo and you dive the string, right, and the string goes this way and it gets hung up on the nut, you would have the same sort of issue. So these, if you use a frictionless nut, I'll take care of it. That's incidentally why in the 80s people like Floyd Rose started using the locking nut, because then you're just taking the tuners out of play. Everything past this point is irrelevant once you lock it down. Of course, those are a pain in the butt, and then they have all kinds of other tuning issues. For example, in terms of bending notes, if you break a string, the whole thing is out of whack. But anyways, here we're going to try to minimize that by using a good nut, locking tuners, and then actually low friction string trees also. These are made by the same company. I think it's Graph Tech, and these would be, I don't know if this is Tusk or what it is, string trees. So they should be low friction too, because as you can imagine, as the string breaks over the nut and hits this string tree, then it can also get hung up here when you're moving back and forth. So anyways, back to the tuners. You'll notice that basically I've pulled the string through, locked it down by cinching down the screw on the bottom. See if I can get to focus. It's just righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, classic. You tighten it down and it will lock it in place, and then just clip it off. You don't need to wrap it around the string post at all. In fact, what I usually do is I'll just do it now. I run this, so I do this one-handed since I'm holding the camera as well. I typically will run it through the string tree. I'll pull it tight to some extent, so I'm taking as much slack as possible out. And then I'll lock it down. So I'll maybe stop for a second and do that. Okay, so I've locked it in place. You'll notice I'm under the string tree. I always like to bend it back. This is awkward doing this one-handed. And then just clip it. And there you go. You're all strung up. Now you just need to turn it. Get some tension on it. I always like to do that. It's just a habit. I've been doing this for so long. partly because I can get it pretty close to pitch just by doing that. And then, I don't know, it's just a habit, I guess, more than anything. So anyways, that's it. Again, the key is to make sure that you don't have enough, you don't have a bunch of winds. Basically what happens is those winds, as you can imagine, if they wrap around the post, every time the string moves, they sort of loosen, and then they're never going to be exactly back to where they were before when the string tightens again. And for that reason, then the string length is going to change, and that will change the pitch, and then you'll be out of tune. So that's it.